Say what?
Hello and welcome back. It's time for Say What, where we hear from those connected to the industry about what's going on in our world of electrical apprenticeship. And this includes the topics that you've suggested, so please keep those coming. I'm your host, Cindy Sandifer. Some of you are familiar with the Khadeejah Banks Foundation and our friends there, Brennan, Drew, and Melanie. We have been working with them on several efforts to help our industry, including one that we're going to chat about today, W.I.R.E, Women's Initiative for Readiness in Electrical. And this is a program committed to creating pathways for women to have successful careers in the electrical construction industry. I'm thrilled to have Brennan Banks, Khadeejah Soper, and Venessa Ingalis to tell us more about W.I.R.E. Brennan, I love the connection, and I don't even know that much. I'm going to find out a lot more here as we chat, but the connection between the three of you, and not just you, Brennan, but obviously the Khadeejah Banks Foundation, and Venessa and Khadeejah. But can you just kind of tell me a little bit about your individual backgrounds and then how you all came together? So Brennan, I'll go ahead and kick off with my buddy here. Give us, high level. We've definitely chatted with the Khadeejah Banks Foundation before and done some work with you, but just a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Cindy. Yeah, it's great to reconnect with you and to see all the team back together for this podcast. As you know, our foundation, the Khadeejah Banks Foundation, was launched in 2021. And the foundation was launched to honor Khadeejah Banks, my mother, who as a young Black woman in the 1970s joined the Registered Apprenticeship Program in her, at that time, hometown of Augusta, Georgia, local 1579. And she, to this date, has been working as a journeywoman in the trade. Currently out in California working in the solar fields, still pushing on. Nearing 70 years old, but still pushing on. God bless her, because she loves her job. And it's been something that she's been passionate about since she became an electrician, made that decision back in the 1970s. And the foundation, again, named after her, is to inspire and encourage other young Black women to consider a career as an electrician and to really educate not just young Black women, but women across the board about the opportunities that the electrical trade provides and to point them in the direction of the Registered Apprenticeship Program and really demonstrate the pathway that they can take to pursue a career in the electrical field and become electricians and enjoy a very dignified, stable career as electricians. So our work across the country is really to tap into local grassroots organizations, associations, and so forth to work with them to empower and amplify the work that they're doing on the ground. And one of our key partners from day one has been Tradeswomen Sisterhood in the Inland Empire of California. And I'm just so happy to have Khadeejah and Venessa here with us today. And we, as a foundation, purposely started our work in the Inland Empire, specifically Riverside, California, and Southern California, which is not only my hometown, but also the hometown of my mom, where she spent most of her life. And we wanted to start in an area that we were familiar with, an area where we have connections, we have roots, and we have relationships. And most importantly, we were very fortunate enough to quickly partner with Venessa and Khadeejah and Tradeswomen Sisterhood. And that sort of started us down this journey that led to the W.I.R.E program that we're going to learn more about today in this podcast. And then, Venessa, please, I'd love for you to jump in and go ahead and continue the conversation and sort of highlight how we all came together to start this journey.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Brennan. So just to share a little bit about Tradeswomen Sisterhood, we started out in 2016 as a volunteer organization. Really just kind of grew out of the idea of a few sisters getting together and recognizing the need for more strategic outreach being done in our region. A lot of us who are in the trades know that it's a great career and it's an awesome opportunity, but not everybody knows about the opportunities that are out there. So we really kind of just started with wanting to share the information about these, unionized apprenticeship opportunities, most specifically with IBEW, right? Being that is my background, that was the trade I had the most information about and was wanting to share the opportunity. So really, again, just getting our start as doing outreach, other tradeswomen out there promoting the opportunities that are available. And as time has gone by and as our program has evolved, we've started to recognize that we can share these opportunities, with individuals who can go and apply and try to get into apprenticeship programs. But one of the things that we recognized is that there's a lot of barriers that women face when they're trying to get into an apprenticeship program or have a successful career. So we have since recognized that we really wanted to step into the apprenticeship readiness training arena so that we're able to provide these individuals with not just the information about an opportunity, but also the ability for them to get a solid foundation in a skill set before they're applying to these opportunities, and really hopes that they have a chance to be successful once they get the opportunity to get into an apprenticeship program. So with that in mind, we as Tradeswomen Sisterhood have kind of started to evolve to be a little more than just a volunteer organization and really trying to strategically work with partners such as Khadeejah Banks Foundation, that are working in the same arena as us to try to bring these opportunities to women and the LGBTQ plus communities.
Excellent. Yeah, I have the privilege of having known Brennan for some time. Just super thankful for the partnership we have. And Brennan, I want one of those shirts. Side note, we'll talk about that later. But then Venessa, we've had a chance to connect quite a few times. And that's been really awesome to see all the work that you're doing. And then knowing Brennan was connecting with you out there, that was fantastic. But Khadeejah, I'm just now getting to know you. So please share some about how you got involved, your background, how you got involved with this organization.
So I got involved with Venessa through our local union because I work with the IBEW as an inside journeyman wireman. When I was an apprentice, Venessa was doing a lot of outreach it was career fairs. And so I got introduced to her through a career fair that I was volunteering at. And I pretty much just stuck with Venessa after that for the entire rest of, what has it been, almost 10 years now? Just following Venessa around, doing all the crazy shenanigans that she's been getting into. And she pushed me onto, I believe, Brennan and the Khadeejah Banks Foundation. You guys, when I met Brennan, we were doing an interview for what it was like to be a Black woman in the trades, right, Brennan? And that was the first time I ever met Brennan and got involved with the Khadeejah Banks Foundation. And by the time that my interview was over, he's like, "Hey, I hear you're a good instructor. Do you want to be an instructor for this thing I'm coming up with?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whenever that happens." And sure enough, that was how the W.I.R.E program kind of started. And at least on my side, that was where I got introduced to everybody at. So it's been a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed it a lot. I really hope we get to keep doing it.
That's awesome. Venessa and shenanigans. I think that I could see that. I think I want to follow the two of you around. That's my new goal. I'll have to get approval, I guess, from the Electrical Training Alliance. But that's awesome. I love the connection for 10 years, been together, and now connecting up with Brennan. So let's talk about W.I.R.E. First, I guess we should talk about what it stands for. And then just also, the vision, what we're hoping to accomplish. And I made myself a part of it. You see how I did we there, what we're hoping to accomplish, and why. So Venessa, can you just share what is W.I.R.E. and why does it exist?
Yeah, absolutely. So W.I.R.E is an acronym, and it stands for Women's Initiative for Readiness in Electrical. And so it is our pilot program that we kicked off at the beginning of, January 2024 was our first cohort. And it is a women's apprenticeship readiness program with a focus on the electrical industry. So we worked in partnership with our Inland Empire Electrical Training Center. So that is the JATC for both San Bernardino and Riverside County. So we were contacted by the training director to utilize some of the ERICA grant funding to create a women's apprenticeship readiness program / mentorship type program. And so in working with the Cassandra Banks Foundation, it was a really good opportunity for us to be able to actually start taking the steps to physically holding our own training, and so it was really awesome because we had a lot more freedom to kind of have a say over what that training included. And that's where I was so grateful for Khadeejah having tagged along for all the shenanigans over the last 10 years, because it put her in such a great position to be able to create that curriculum. With her being an instructor for the training center for several years, with her attending ETA training, for several years, she really had a good foundation in how to build that curriculum, and then also having our input of, the things that we wish we had learned in our apprenticeship, or, wish we knew going into the trades. And really just trying to give these individuals opportunity to get ahead of the curve and not have to have so much of that learning curve taking place on the job site with so much pressure and, production being important and things like that.
So Khadeejah, I know other than just, you're doing much more than just following Venessa. What caused you to get involved? What sold you on it, if you will, or what kind of triggered some need to be a part of this?
A lot of it was that I was not satisfied with the training that I got from our training center, and I wanted to make it better for any people who came in after me. So being able to build my own curriculum and basically teach the way that I wish that I was taught was a huge deal for me. I think that was one of the biggest parts of it. And I had actually had this conversation with Brennan before, but one of the big reasons why I became a part of this was because it made me feel like I was more than just a Black woman. Like, I'm an instructor. I mean something. I'm not just another, statistic that's out there doing things. So it gave me a purpose. Right.
And I'm going to assume something, and please don't hesitate to correct me if I'm wrong, because I get corrected all the time. But did it make, the fact that then other young women can see you and see potential for themselves, right? Not just as an electrical worker, but as an instructor, right? That it's limitless, right? What they could possibly do. Did that kind of motivate you as well?
Yeah, it's a big deal for me to have other women come up and see me and they just say, "Oh, cool, I can be an instructor." I'm like, "No, you can be more than that. I just chose to be an instructor." Right? This is what I wanted to do. And then I'll start listing off all the things you can do. You can be an engineer, you can go out and you can be a project manager. There's all these different avenues you can take just from graduating from an apprenticeship like this. And it opens their eyes to this whole new world that they never knew that they even had just right at their fingertips. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I love that. So for the W.I.R.E program, let's talk recruitment. How, Brennan, Venessa, how did that work? How does the recruitment work for it, Brennan, for as far as your involvement in it?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it was a joint effort, between our foundation and Tradeswomen Sisterhood. I think there's a few different components. I'll highlight two components and maybe hand it over to Venessa to talk about the third. And the three that I'm thinking of right now is really getting the word out into the community. Two, doing outreach to government partners and stakeholders so they can also get the word out within their networks. And the third component, I think, is labor, making sure that we had our labor partners on board as well. So I think the beginning started with us tapping into our existing network of community groups and other associations, organizations, nonprofits that are working either with women or working in communities of color. So we wanted to make sure that we were broadcasting the W.I.R.E program to a large audience so that we could ensure that those that were interested in such a program could learn more about it. Second component was really leaning on our government partners, Riverside County Workforce Development Board, San Bernardino County Workforce Development Board, other key government offices and entities that have a interest in either economic development, supporting women, or again, working in communities of color, through other government-related initiatives or programs or activities. So we wanted to make sure that our government partners were aware of the W.I.R.E program and had the information they needed to then amplify this opportunity within their networks and within their groups of partners. And then the third, and I think Venessa and Khadeejah maybe can speak to that a little bit better than I can, as representatives of labor who are working with the key stakeholders, not only in the electrical trade, but in other trades, it's really doing outreach to them. And I know Venessa and Khadeejah also invest a lot of time, FaceTime, with meeting with these groups and going to other in-face events. So I don't want to steal their thunder. I'll maybe hand it over to Venessa. She can highlight a little bit about that and maybe speak a little bit more to the specific individual recruitment piece.
Yeah. So as far as Tradeswomen Sisterhood's role with our recruitment, a lot of the traction that we've been able to gain in the last 5 years or so has been on social media, right? It's a great time to be alive because everybody is so connected, and just visually, right? Like a lot of folks, women especially, 15, 20 years ago, they weren't necessarily having access to visualizing and seeing women working in these roles, where nowadays, if they're somebody who's, following our social media page, they're constantly seeing women in various roles in the construction industry, and having that component of being able to visualize themselves in the position, having a female or a woman of color or an individual who looks like them, seeing them doing the job as opposed to just a random person sitting at a career fair table saying, yeah, you could do it, go apply, I think for us, being able to tap into that social media network, and putting the information out that we had a program coming, and then also using it to host webinars, right? Because a lot of folks were like, what is W.I.R.E? What does that mean? What is it going to consist of? What am I going to get out of it? So we actually hosted a few different webinars to where it was just answered all of those questions, right? What is the program? What are you signing up for? What are you going to get out of it? What can you expect? What are we going to expect out of you? And all of that. And then an opportunity for anybody who was participating in the webinars to ask some questions as well, get a little bit more information, and just really have a good idea of what it is they're signing up for and what the end goal is. We wanted to make sure that with it being our pilot cohort, we really wanted to make sure that it was individuals who had a plan of entering the construction industry and, it was already kind of in their mindset. Being that there was only so many positions, we wanted to make sure that folks were taking it as a serious opportunity and not just, oh, well, just sign up and, see how this thing goes. We wanted to make sure that they understood the value of what they were being offered, and by taking that on, there's only so many positions, and to make sure that they, really took advantage of the opportunity, But I think also making sure that we're getting the word out, like Brennan had mentioned, with all of these different organizations. As somebody who works with labor, and I'm an organizer for my full-time position, I'm constantly working with different, economic development groups, community groups, and things like that, and so tapping into those networks to get the information out there, and also having them share it on their social media and all of that, it's really just kind of multiple pronged approach and just trying to see, what we can get out of it.
Absolutely. And that kind of bringing me back to Khadeejah, I love instructors. I just want to throw that out there. I know the Electrical Training Alliance loves instructors. Just what you do, right? What you give back. But you're talking about developing curriculum, and that's a whole different level. I do not do anything with that. Let me make that clear. But I see the team here that works with, the subject matter experts that does this curriculum development process. So can you kind of walk us through what you did, what it entailed to do for this 11-week, it's an 11-week program. So, I mean, talk to us about that curriculum development process, the soft skills, all those things that you did.
So originally, I know Venessa gave me a bare bones, this is what I want them to know. And I cut a bunch of stuff out and added some things in. But we went through the first, I believe, 9 weeks was mostly online. we had one meetup day, which would be hands-on or in person. But we went over nutrition and how to take care of yourself in the field, because it can be really dangerous, especially where we're at working in the solar fields, trying to stay hydrated, trying to figure out what to eat. We went over exercise regimen. Every day that we were in person, we had a stretch and flex and a daily routine of some sort of exercise, because there's a lot of muscles that you just didn't even know existed that you need to use. So they were all working, carrying sandbags, carrying ladders, bundles of conduit, everything that I could think of to get them used to what it's going to be like in the field. So first thing in the morning, always sweating. And then we went over, there was so much. We had AC theory, just a little bit, DC theory, tool and material identification, proper use of all the tools and materials. They went over basic math, basic English and reading comprehension. We did time management skills. We actually took a small budgeting and personal finance course, when they should buy a car, how to buy a car, what to do with debt with credit cards, how to keep your savings account, and the difference between savings and an emergency fund, stuff like that. A lot of people get into the apprenticeship and they start making a bunch of money, and then they start spending a bunch of money, and it can cause a lot of problems. So we want to make sure we touched on that. And in the beginning, we started off slow with all of that stuff. And as we kind of got to know each other a little bit more, we started getting a lot more physical. And then we went into our boot camp. So our boot camp was all about hands-on and pretending like we were on a job site for real. So again, we would start in the morning with stretch and flex. We'd go over safety. They'd get into their exercise regimen. And after that, it was whatever I could throw at them. So we started doing boards. I made up these boards for them to work on, where they can do all of their circuitry and learning all of their devices and put all their wiring in. And we did that for a full week. And at the very last day was their challenge, where they had to do one of every single one, and they had to make them all work on the same board all together by themselves. And they only got 5 chances to come up and give it to me, and I wouldn't tell them what was wrong. I would only tell them that what didn't work. So it was a really good way. Like at the end of every week, they basically had a final that was a physical final. At the end of our second week was conduit bending. So we would spend the whole week with them, teaching them how to do conduit bending, all the trigonometry that they need to know for that. And by the end of the week, I separated them out into 2 groups and took the people that I thought were least likely to be leaders and made them the leaders of those 2 groups, and told them that they couldn't touch any tools, but they had to lead their group into building a rack, basically with 10 conduits on it. And they had to go from one point to another point. And like, it was just like a regular job site. It got interesting watching everybody try to figure out what their role was and how to work together when, you put an 18-year-old in charge of a bunch of 20-year-olds. It can get a little interesting, to say the least. It was kind of nice. I liked it. They enjoyed it. So that was their final for that. And then our last week, we got all of their lift certifications. They did forklift training, scissor lift training, aerial lift training. They're all certified for that. We did OSHA 10 training, so everybody has their OSHA 10 card. They got a chance to put on harnesses and see what it was like to be lifted up in a tripod, see what it's like to actually wear a harness and fit it properly, what happens when you don't. I put on the harness incorrectly so that they could see what happens when someone falls incorrectly in a harness. But it was I think they had a lot more fun with that than I did, to be honest with you. And then we also did our regular sexual harassment and bullying training as well, which Venessa came in and helped with that too. And it was more insightful, I think, with both of us there, because we both deal with problems in different ways, right? So I'm very passive and Venessa is not. And so we both had a chance to be like, oh, this is how I would deal with this situation. This is how she would deal with the situation. And then this is how, the training tells you to deal with this situation. And so it was a lot more insightful, I think, to have us both there for that. But yeah, that's the basis of their training.
It's brilliant. Like I was trying, cause I tend to emote with my face and my hands, and I'm sitting here mouth open, and I feel like I've had several conversations lately talking about holistic, right? Looking at an individual as a whole person. So we care about you, yes, as an electrical worker in our industry, right? But I care about your mind. I care about your heart. I care about your emotions and your family and all that stuff. And so as you're talking about all these different things they're doing, you're teaching them finances, right? And the different, you were talking about, emergency versus savings versus your checking versus, I mean, that's like, they're going to use that no matter what they do in their life. And I feel like it shows a certain care, that they're not going to find just going wherever, right, to do training or to work. So yeah, just hearing, I mean, it's so well-rounded. I'm kind of, again, a little bit in awe of you, Khadeejah. I feel like I'm, maybe like just kind of like having that moment of zen with like, oh my gosh. And then I also decided, I was going to try to, like do better with myself. So I feel like I need to come to boot camp. That's the other thing. I'm like, when do y'all start that up again? I don't know about carrying sandbags. Like I'm going to be the last person in line, but I'm going to do it. So I'll see you, next time. But tell me, like, how did they respond? So the recipients, good Lord, the participants, how did they respond to this work? Were there things that you noted, like as they went through the training? Venessa, was there something that kind of sticks out to you as far as what these W.I.R.E, I guess W.I.R.E women is what I want to call them, but I know that might be a little redundant.
So I think the thing that surprises me the most was how quickly the way that Khadeejah set up the training and curriculum was from day one. Everything we did kind of built off what we learned the previous week, right? So by the time we got to the last 3 weeks of the boot camp portion, there had already been quite a bit of like teamwork going on and forcing them to kind of work with each other and get to know each other, right? Because any of us who've worked in the industry knows that sometimes could be the biggest struggle, is dealing with personalities and the conflicts, right? Like I can do the job, but dealing with the personalities and all of that. So that was a big component of what we made sure to give them the opportunity to learn, is that you're not always going to deal with people you want to be dealing with. You're not always going to get to do the job you want to do, but you still have to be able to suck it up and get the job done, And so at the end of it, the way that the whole cohort came together to support each other and to make sure every single one of them got through it, because all of our participants finished the program. And there was numerous times where there was a few different participants that were like, you know what? Screw it. This isn't for me. And they were ready to quit. And the cohort itself and the other participants rallying around them and supporting them and uplifting them and bringing them back into the circle and making sure that they understood or got through whatever it is that they were doing. That, I think, to me was like the coolest part of it.
Yeah. See, again, like I realize, hey, Cindy, you have to talk because it's a podcast, but I'm like, oh my God, like it's beautiful, right? That's what it's supposed to be about. We talk brother, sister, siblinghood. I mean, you're talking about that in action, right? That actually happening.
Yeah. And there's a few of their participants who are like best friends now, like locked up, like they, and they both have told us like, if it wasn't for this program, we would have never met each other. And this is like one of the most amazing, coolest friends I've ever had in my life, and just that camaraderie that comes from working as a team like that,
Right. And it wasn't maybe the primary goal, but my gosh, like that's, again, we're back to holistic, right? What we've given these women beyond these technical skills.
Yeah. And like you said, no matter where they go in life, that's a skill that they will be able to take and use in every aspect of their life, whether it's at home, at work, it's cool to see that all of the additional things beyond the electrical, skills that they were able to acquire in this program.
Yeah. Now, Khadeejah, you're there with them. You're their instructor. Like, did you have, like, is that kind of what you're thinking, what Venessa was saying, or did you have a different experience with their training?
I mean, I was pretty impressed at how well they were able to keep up with me, with everything that I threw at them. I have a habit of making it difficult for my students on purpose because I want them to have the challenge and I want them to learn something. I want them to leave saying, oh, I learned something today. I'm better today than I was when I stepped into class this morning, right? So they figured me out really quick and they noticed that a lot of the time they would ask me a question. I wouldn't answer it straight away or I wouldn't answer it all the way. I would give them a half answer and they knew that they had to go to each other to get the rest of the answer or they were going to have to figure it out or they were going to have to ask me again. And nobody wanted to ask me again by the time we got about halfway through. It was don't ask the teacher. We can do this. We can figure it out. Someone knows something. And they would sit there and, I mean, it was amazing just kind of watching them help each other and boost each other up throughout the whole thing. One of my goals was to make sure that they all had an opportunity to work with each other and meet each other and basically make friends in a way to where, like, if once they all got in, they knew they had a support system. Because I didn't have a support system coming into the trades. I didn't have anything at all. So I wanted them to be as close to each other and more reliant on each other than they were reliant on me as an instructor. Like, they know they can come to me, but I'm not always going to be there as throughout their entire apprenticeship. Everyone in their class will be.
That's such a good point. So you're saying you didn't really have that. There's a lot of people in our industry that, they had other relatives, right? Or they know someone, friend of the family. And you're saying you didn't have that for you, right? Going through apprenticeship and such.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have anybody to talk to about what I was going through or what was going on. So it was a little more difficult as I was dealing with, just being away from home for the first time. I got in when I was 20. One of my first jobs was out in Blythe. I had to go live in an apartment or a hotel by myself, and it was really difficult just being alone for the longest time, or dealing with, general harassment, guys picking on you, seeing what they can and can't do. So it was one of my goals to make sure that all of the girls knew that they had each other the entire time that they were there. And it worked out really, really well. Like Venessa said, we have a couple girls who are scared of heights, and when we were doing the lift training, they did not want to get up in those lifts, even in a little bit. But by the time we were done with that week, they were all the way up at the top of a 120-foot lift, and they were excited. And everyone was taking pictures of them, and we were all clapping for them, and it was pretty great.
That's so. See, again, like, I keep going back and forth as I hear you talk. Like, yes, I want to do this with you, and then someone's like, no, I don't. But like to think about that growth, that challenge, like that's is just beautiful. So let's talk results, because I think it's an important thing, right? Like, I'm not a data-driven individual, but I totally understand the value. What did you see as the result of the program? I think you talked about everybody completing and just different things that would seem maybe valuable to that person that's wanting to know, like, tell me numbers, tell me, stats.
So we did have 11 participants. All of them did graduate. I did keep track of their grades. Some of them did better than others on the schoolwork portion of it and on the hands-on portion, but they all did enough to pass. So that was good. We do have one participant who did make it into the IBW already. We had a slow year this year, so they weren't accepting any more than, we accepted 5 participants, and she was one of the 5 that got accepted. And then the rest of them are all on a wait list to get in. For as far as I know, I don't know about our work picture or anything like that, or like how that's actually going to work when it comes time, but they're all on a list waiting to get in.
That's great. Venessa, we were talking about like results and the importance of data and, statistics so that we can say, hey, this is what worked. And to me, the picture of somebody that was scared of heights, getting a picture of them taken, that's data right there, right? Like that's something too. But this 100% completion of the program, and then, work. I mean, obviously, if work were different, right, the work outlook, then you'd probably have more of those 11 in right now. But that's just not, we all know the reality of construction work. But just, it sounds like, from a data perspective, right, numbers, super successful. Would you agree, Venessa?
Yeah, it was one of those things where initially we were kind of not really sure how it was going to go. Obviously, being a cohort or a pilot cohort, we weren't really sure as far as participation, once we got into things, if we were going to have like a dropout rate, or just kind of what that was going to look like. And I think we were all very like pleasantly surprised at how successful the program was. And I think it kind of just comes back to the work that Khadeejah put into how the curriculum was built, how the program was built, and, kind of just the process that it takes the individual through in going through the program, of building up their self-esteem and all of that, Unfortunately, like when it comes to the construction industry, timing is everything. We, as they've shared, it sounds like, we did have a 100% success rate with our participants in our program as far as the placement into the apprenticeship program. Unfortunately, with work being slow right now, our training center actually took in the smallest classes that we've taken in since I've been a member for 17 years, which is like, it's so unfortunate with the timing. But it was also really important that part of the conversation that was included in our program is the timing is, it might not be the exact time, but when the opportunity does come up to be able to take advantage of it, for me personally, it took me a year and a half to get into the apprenticeship when I first got in. And a lot of it had to do with timing, the economy taking a crash back in 2007, we weren't bringing in as many apprentices. And so it's a similar timing, for these individuals, and really just sharing with them that you're going to have to be persistent with it. This isn't something that's going to necessarily be handed to you. You have the skills, you have the information, you have the knowledge now to pursue this opportunity, but it's still going to take some pursuing on your part and some consistency and following through. And, if it's something you're really hungry for, you're going to have to chase it, but making sure that once you get there and you have that opportunity in your hand, that you have the skill set to be able to take full advantage of it, but I do think that a lot of the individuals who did go through the program and were successful and they have that skill set, just because they didn't get in, in the apprenticeship class within a few months of them completing the program, a lot of them are still committed to following through and, making their way into the electrical industry.
Yeah. I was going to say, even for those who didn't get in, since we're speaking about results, they all did also get a lot of skills that they can use outside of the trades, right? Like their financial skills. They all got interview skills. I know Venessa did mock interviews and stuff with them. They all took a course on how to do a resume. They all got nutritional information. Everybody got exercise out of it. So there's a lot that they could take away from this, even just basic math and reading skills that they can still use outside of the trades as well if they decided to not continue on down that path. So.
And another thing too is we were able to connect them with some wraparound services as well through one of our partners, a partnership with an organization called W.I.R.E. And so the W.I.R.E. was able to provide them each with some wraparound services so that during the program itself, the services were kind of tailored to each individual's needs, because some of our participants had a childcare need, where not every participant had that need. Some participants needed additional support when it came to like transportation. Some of them were driving in an hour and a half to be able to come in and participate, and then on top of that, all of the W.I.R.E. program itself, the participation, it wasn't a paid program, right? So these are individuals who made that 11-week commitment to show up at our training center, in person. The whole last 3 weeks was in person. The first several weeks before the boot camp, they would come in person 1 day a week, and so it's a big commitment on their part, and it is definitely an expense to some extent for these individuals to make that commitment. And so by being able to connect them with those wraparound services, it was a little bit of some support, during the program. But those wraparound services, they were connected with a consultant. I'm sorry, I don't think that's the term, but an individual to caseworker. There we go. Thank you, Khadeejah. For a whole 1 year period. Right. So even though our program was only those 11 weeks, that caseworker is still continuing to stay in touch with them and figure out any additional resources they might be able to provide them in the meantime of while they're kind of trying to figure out their pathway, and so, and again, it just kind of speaks to the partnership with other organizations and how, these programs, the success of these programs really depends on those partnerships and everybody, bringing everything they can to the table.
Yeah. And we're back to holistic, right? You're showing that you care beyond just getting them to become, a part of the program. We're looking out for a lot more than that. Brennan, how does this compare to what you anticipated with this program?
Yes, Cindy, that's a great question. And, as you know, I've been working in the nonprofit space for over 2 decades. And during my career, I've worked on numerous programs, projects, within the community, working with different demographics. And never do we expect 100% participation and 100% completion graduation rate. That's just unheard of. For me, that was the biggest, accomplishment, and the greatest piece of evidence, that the program was successful, both in terms of its design and the delivery, by Tradeswomen Sisterhood. And to have 100% completion and graduation is it's unheard of, for me. So that was huge. That was really, really, really huge. Just to come back to comments earlier, about the placement, it was unfortunate that there was a slight slowdown in economic opportunities or jobs, and therefore there was a smaller intake into the registered apprenticeship program. As I think Khadeejah mentioned, one graduate from the program was placed in the apprenticeship program, and we're thrilled about that. But I would expand on that and highlight that of the 11 participants in the program, 4 of them were actually placed within the top 10% of their respective apprenticeship waiting list. So, it's unfortunate only one person was placed, but 4 out of the 11 women placed in the top 10%, of that list. And for those that don't understand what that means, that list, that placement is based on a scoring system. Half of that being a test, testing their knowledge of the electrical field. And part of that score is the actual interview, with a panel and representatives from the local industry there. So, when you factor in those scores and you had 4 of the women placed in the top 10%, that's a phenomenal result that, again, highlights the quality of the program that Tradeswomen Sisterhood delivered. I would also just want to highlight, what Venessa was mentioning earlier about the partnership. That was something that I admit was not expected as well. We had all partners step up to the plate, and really put their money where their mouths are, and their mouths have been, but they stepped up and delivered. And when I'm talking about partnership, as Venessa mentioned, there's the IE Works and other local groups that stepped up to the plate, but really our labor partners, starting with the Inland Empire Electrical Training Center, and their director and the leadership over there that, made sure we had what we needed. We're able to fill in any gaps. We're able to host, part of the program, specifically the boot camp piece of the program. Obviously the 2 locals, 440 and 447, making sure that their leadership was on board and supportive, and extending opportunity for all of the participants that graduated from the program, in this case, all 11, were guaranteed, an interview into the apprenticeship program. So, those partnerships really made this program successful. Anika representatives in their office, obviously was involved in well. And then the Electrical Training Alliance, you guys weren't on the ground, but you were a big piece in making all of this possible. And you supported the program directly with assistance with the curriculum and access to online curriculum. So that partnership piece, really made this program successful, and it exceeded my expectations to see all of the partners come together. And I think we have to note private sector played a supporting role, in the program. Friends at Ideal Industries, provided significant in-kind contribution of materials for the training, tools for the program, and for the participants themselves. We had partners from Fluke, Nextera Energy that also played a supporting role. So again, the partnership exceeded my expectations, and that really made the program as successful as it could be. And I would just one anecdote, because I think it's always important to sort of highlight those personal stories. And Venessa was, I think, mentioning, the sacrifices that these women had to make, to complete what was a very demanding 11-week program. They were balancing, kids at home. They were balancing hour-long commutes. They were balancing their part-time jobs, while trying to complete this program. Specifically, we had one student who was, attending the boot camp in the day, going home to eat dinner, then driving to their night job, doing a night shift, and then driving directly back to the boot camp the next morning to sleep in the car, until the boot camp started. So the sacrifices that these women made to demonstrate their commitment to this program was just it was amazing to see it, to witness it, to hear about it, and it definitely exceeded all of our expectations, and that's a good thing.
That's incredible. I mean, when you think about that kind of commitment, and it's not like, hey, you're going to get $1 million at the end of this. Hey, you're going to have this, we guarantee you 25 years of a career making this much money. There wasn't that. And that tells you a lot about them as individuals. To me, it tells me a lot about Khadeejah as their instructor, the support of Venessa and Brennan and and everyone. I think and you all have shared some, but like the responses from the women after they completed. I mean, what was the feedback in general that, and any of you, can answer that, but like what in general did you hear back from these women?
So I think like one of the responses that really hit me the hardest, like right straight to the heart, was we did intake and outtake interviews with everybody, so just real quick, what they expected to get out of the program, things like that. And then on the outtake, their experience and kind of just sharing, what they got out of the program, things like that. And there was one individual who, I'm going to try not to cry, during her outtake interview shared with us really the struggles that she had been dealing with prior to the program, and even in her intake interview, she had shared, just how excited she was for the opportunity and how it came at just the right time in her life, and so during her outtake interview, she elaborated a bit more on that and shared how at that point in her life, she was basically not really living her authentic self or living her true self. She was kind of in the closet when it came to her sexuality and not really telling her family about it, and a lot of that was because she was afraid of how her family, being the culture that they come from, would view her decisions and things like that. And really, she shared that she was really having like suicidal thoughts and just was really struggling with her mental health. And when this opportunity came about, it gave her the courage to feel like she could, be true to herself and live her authentic self and, come out to her family and share all of these different things, and I mean, at the end in her interview, her sharing that literally, I mean, this is a quote from her, that if it wasn't for this program, she felt that this program saved her life, and that was one of the things that, to me, everything aside, I would do this program all over again just for that one result, just for that one individual woman to know that she has the value to bring to this world and to any workplace, everything that she is, and showing up as your true authentic self and being able to live in that capacity gives us the power to do so much more with our lives, and to see her be able to go through that during our program and come out the other end of the program as this new emboldened individual who's ready to just go after life was just so amazing to me.
Like an unintended consequence. I mean, no one set out to say, hey, I bet if we do this, we're going to save someone's life. We probably thought, I'll enrich someone's life, right? To give them a future career path and all, but I doubt, that was in your head and my God, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, It's powerful. Khadeejah,
It really
yeah, like same thing as far as like kind of feedback. You felt like the women walked away different and better. Is that what you heard from them? I guess I should say.
I had a lot of them do a survey when they left, and a lot of them did say that they feel like they learned a lot more than they would have in a regular traditional school. We did have one participant who went through a 10-week paid like college program. Or no, she was there for 13 weeks, I think. It was a lot longer. She paid a lot of money for it. And she said that our program was better than that program, and she wished she would have just done our program first, which I thought was kind of crazy. The only feedback I really got about the curriculum was that they wished that there was more to the boot camp. Everybody wanted to do more of the boot camp. They wanted more hands-on. They wanted more time to get to do more exercising. They just wanted more of the boot camp part. They're like, oh, we just want a 5-week boot camp program and none of the actual math part of it. Like they still need the math though. I'm not pulling the math out.
No, but I'm not a math person. So I'm like, yeah, don't put it in there. But yes, it's essential to the trade. I get it. But that's awesome. Like wanting more, right? Like saying I want more of any of it is huge.
It made me feel really good as an instructor just to have students say that they wanted to be in my class longer. Is that right there is made me feel like crying.
Yeah. And for all the right reasons, it should. Because I mean, that's like how many people are ready for class to end, ready to, get away from their instructor or teacher, and for people to say, no, give me more of you and what you're teaching me. That's one of the highest compliments you can get as an instructor.
It's interesting too, because teaching the W.I.R.E program, I was also at the same time teaching apprentices, and it was a huge, it just dramatic day to night shift during this, like with the students. My apprentices, like you said, are constantly, I want to go home. If I do this, can I leave? When can I get out of here? Do I have to do this now? And then I would go over to the W.I.R.E program. They're like, oh, can we stay longer? Do you have extra time to help me with this? It's amazing how much more people will take in when they want to be there and they're there of their own accord. And they're so much more willing to learn and just take everything in and put that extra foot forward and take that extra step. It was nice. It was really eye-opening for me, and it made me feel like I, wanted to continue to do this for the rest of my life. I want to keep being an instructor just for that alone. If I can just touch one person,
But we've got 11 for sure. And then let's not take away those apprentices. I've heard a lot of instructors say, yeah, when I was instructing those apprentices, you didn't feel like you were getting through or, but they don't always come back, but sometimes they will. So seriously, like Khadeejah, hats off to you you were, doing both of these things. We talked about the commitment of these 11 women, but I'm looking at the commitment of you, to them and to your apprentices and to the industry. And so like, seriously, like it's pretty remarkable.
I was working in the field at the same time too.
Good. I need you to go take a nap right now. Like, let's just go take a nap.
It was so much fun though. It was so fun. I liked being busy. It was a lot, but it was great. I got to tell them all about what I was doing at work, and then I got to show them what I was doing at work. So everybody really appreciated that too.
Yeah, makes it real. All right, Brennan, are we doing this again? You anticipating doing this program again?
Yeah, well, there's two ways to look at that question, and I'll take the larger question about our foundation and what our plans are going forward, but I'll definitely hand it over to Venessa, who can talk more about the plans to do another round of the W.I.R.E program. But from the foundation side, our focus going forward, especially in 2025, is we want to see how we can support more organizations like Tradeswomen's Sisterhood and to provide the finances and the technical support that they need to replicate this apprenticeship readiness program in other markets across the country. So to your audience out there, please feel free to reach out to us. We're open to exploring other jurisdictions, other markets to see how we can support other groups in doing a similar type program. And in the meanwhile, we are continuing to work with Venessa and Khadeejah and their team on how we can best support a second round of the W.I.R.E program. And I'll hand it over to Venessa, who can maybe share a little bit about the current plans and thinking for another cohort.
Yeah, so we obviously were really excited about the success of this program so far, and we're absolutely wanting to continue to build upon that success and expand the program. As of right now, we are talking about running another cohort for the W.I.R.E program in 2025. We don't quite have a timeline nailed down just yet. It's kind of going to be, working in coordination with the training center and just trying to make sure that kind of this go around that we have a little bit more work in the hopper ready to go before we're training more folks, right? We don't. The last thing we want to do is just train a bunch of people when we don't have anywhere for them to go, and so we're kind of trying to find that balance of making sure the program continues on and builds on the momentum that we have, but also making sure that we're not just training a bunch of folks that we don't have anywhere to put them, So with that in mind, part of what we're trying to do in this next year is we as Tradeswomen Sisterhood in the last several months have taken the steps to get our own nonprofit status. So Khadeejah, being our amazing instructor slash administrative paperwork guru over there, has worked on getting our nonprofit status. And so with that, we're able to start pursuing our own grant funding and things like that to be able to kind of expand beyond just the W.I.R.E program. So in the next year, Tradeswomen Sisterhood is actually looking to start utilizing the building trades MC3 curriculum and doing apprenticeship readiness training, and then working directly with our various building trades affiliates like IBEW to create similar programs that would be pathways into their apprenticeship program. So the pathway for us would be, for IBEW, would be our W.I.R.E program. But, working with the various affiliates, so the UA, for example, the iron workers, even within the IBEW, expanding into the line voltage side of the training. We're having discussions with our IBEW Local 47, who's the lineman local out here in Southern California, and trying to see what we could do to also support that side of the industry, and hopefully potentially building out a similar type program, but that would have the specific training for those industries. So in the next year, that's kind of what we're looking at. It's like kind of a bigger picture and definitely growing in a lot of different directions. But one of the things that we recognize is that, number one, not everyone is meant to be an electrician. I would venture to guess if you've worked in the electrical industry, you've probably worked with a few folks who would have been better as an iron worker or a different trade. So we just want to make sure that as, we're introducing these opportunities to individuals, that we're not just telling them about one opportunity, but really showing them all of the opportunities that are out there and helping them to kind of figure out where they're going to fit the best within the building trades. I think that's so important when it comes to retention, not just for IBEW or for our apprenticeship program, but when it comes to women in the construction industries in general. Really just making sure that they have, a good foundation of skill set when they're applying, but also that they really know what they're getting themselves into in pursuing these pathways and pursuing these apprenticeship programs, and additionally connecting them with mentors, once they're in the industry, to be able to kind of help guide them through navigating their apprenticeship, navigating their career pathways and things like that, so that's kind of where we're at as right now.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's so much on the horizon, and it's, it is, I think I used this word, before, but like, it's kind of limitless, right? What you all are able to do, not only for them, for their career paths, but what you're able to do in helping provide this, this opening of doors for them to look into it. So kind of on that note, are you all willing, if someone's listening and they're like, hey, this is amazing, I'd like to see this in my area, I'd like to know more, on whatever level, right? They might want to talk to you, Brennan, about getting something like this started. Khadeejah, they might have questions about, instructors and curriculum, and Venessa, just kind of all of it, right? Like organizing logistics and, trying to put something like this together. Are you all open to communicate with someone that might want to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of the big things with the build out of this program, is we really wanted to make it to where it could be a replicable model, right? Like what we're doing here could easily be taken and rebuilt in a different area. Obviously, every region has like their own kind of nuances and things like that, but really the idea with our program was to be able to build it in a way that can continue to expand and be replicated in other areas. So yes, by all means, please reach out to us.
Yeah. Same here, and our inbox is always open at CassandraBanks.org. I encourage any like-minded individuals, associations, groups, partners in the industry that want to reach out to us and explore how we can partner. We'd be open to that. As I mentioned earlier, our focus going forward over the next 3 years is really increasing our level of support to local groups and organizations such as Tradeswomen Sisterhood, and seeing how we can directly support them with small grants to empower and amplify and enhance the work that they're already doing to get women and others from communities of color as well into the trade trade. So we want to continue expanding on that work. At the same time, our organization is committed to, providing technical support and being a thought partner to these local organizations to help them grow. As Khadeejah and Venessa mentioned earlier, Tradeswomen Sisterhood is now moving forward with getting their 501c3 and positioning themselves to be able to receive further funding and expand their partnerships. And we want to replicate that story and that success, in other markets and jurisdictions. And lastly, we, have to give another shout out to the Electrical Training Alliance. Cindy, your team has been fantastic. Our partnership between our organizations for the last 3 years has been phenomenal. And we continue to work together to see how we can develop a toolkit and guidance for other training centers, other halls, other NECA regions and offices to help them reach more women, help them reach more people of color, and do further recruitment into the trade. So we'll continue moving forward with a lot of the things that we've been doing. And again, want to thank everyone from the Electrical Training Alliance for their support. And really, again, another shout out to Venessa and Khadeejah, Tradeswomen Sisterhood, Mitzi, who's another instructor that's not with us today. This W.I.R.E program would not have been possible for not them being on the ground and their commitment, their diligence, and all the efforts they put forward. So really, it's amazing to see what partnerships can deliver. And this is a great example just of that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for your time and for sharing your energy and passion. It's contagious. And I really appreciate you doing this with us. So thank you. So I hope you were inspired, encouraged by listening to Brennan, Venessa, and Khadeejah about W.I.R.E. Certainly incredible things that are happening. And I hope that you all will consider being a part of something like this, reaching out to them to learn more. Thank you. Huge, huge thanks to Brennan, Venessa, and Khadeejah for being here, sharing your passion and commitment with everyone, and for all the work that you're doing. You are making such a difference in our industry. Always grateful for you, the listeners, for taking time to join us. Remember that we want to hear from you. So if there are topics that you would like us to cover, if you'd like to be a guest on Say What, send me an email, saywhat, SAYWATT, at electricaltrainingalliance.org. Stay connected with us through our newsletters, blog posts, and be sure to follow us on social media. Subscribe to this podcast. Stay powered up, and we will see you next time.
Say what?